House bell tolling, so I think it would be 7 o'clock. Mike, we're ready to start when you are.
All right, well, welcome all of you to the HR 49 Candidate Educational Forum. I appreciate each and every one of you candidates setting aside the time tonight for those who may be watching us so that they can get to know you, those who haven't already met you. I know that every one of you who are here tonight have been working in the field, have shaken a lot of hands and knocked on a lot of doors, probably worn out doing that. But maybe through this media, you will get to reach a number of people who you haven't already talked to. We don't know how many people are watching right at this moment, but we know that those who are looking at it live tonight, a lot of people will get to see you that otherwise would not have. And after this event has gone by live, there will also be a recording that we will post on Facebook as well as on YouTube. It will be available to you as well as to the general public, and it can be circulated by a number of methods so that people can have access to it and maybe reach as many people as possible through this medium. Now, Josh Lambert, who is our technical guy, is going to begin by going through some slides which have some introductory information on it. And I hope that all of you are seeing right now on your screen the introduction to let you know that this forum is being hosted by the Bibb Voice, one of the people that is on the Zoom forum with you, who you can't see him, but he's there. His name is David Daniel. He's the publisher and one of the editors of the Bibb Voice. So he's with us tonight. And Josh, you can move on to the next slide. The House District 49 Education Committee that put this slide presentation and this forum together consisted of myself, Mike Hobson, David Daniel, and Dawn Ray. Dawn Ray is also quietly on this forum tonight and is listening in, for those of you who know Dawn Ray. The co-sponsors of this event include a lot of people. That includes the Bibb County Republican Party. Jerry Powell is the chairman of the Bibb County Republican Party. It includes the Chilton County Republican Party. Alan Childress is the chairman of the Republican Party of Chilton County, and Alan is on this forum. And Alan has just waved at you. I hope you noticed that. His microphone is presently not muted, but I'll unmute it. Alan, if you'd just like to say, because this is probably the only time that Alan's going to get to say anything. If you want to say anything, Alan, now would be the time to do it.
Well, just want to welcome each one of you. I know I had a run at politics about 20 years ago. I know that at the end of the day, it's you and your family and God, and I hope that you make it through this the way you intended. I do wish each one of you the very best, not just tonight, but in your endeavors and winning this office, but especially as you serve us. And I'm here to help you anytime I can. So my email is there on the screen, and I think each one of you have my cell phone. So anytime you need me, just you feel free to call.
Thank you, Alan, and we really appreciate you spending your time to be here with us tonight. Our other co-sponsor includes the Shelby County Republican Party. Joan Reynolds is the chairperson of the Shelby County Party. She's not on the forum with us tonight, but she sends her greetings. And the other sponsor is the Republican Women of Shelby County. Robin Lideker is the president of the Republican Women of Shelby County. The candidates tonight that you will be seeing include Russell Bedsole. I'm not going to let them talk right now. They're going to get to do plenty of talking. But Russell, would you just wave so people can see who you are at this point in time? James Dean is not here right now. He may join us later on.
Real quick, Mike, sorry to interrupt, but if you want them to wave and be seen on the stream, they will need to unmute and say a word so it cuts to their camera temporarily.
Okay. Russell, would you unmute your mic, and each of you candidates when it's
Yes,
your
sir.
turn, just unmute your mic and wave, please. So,
Yep. Good evening to you and to my fellow candidates. Good evening.
Chuck Martin, got to unmute your mic, Chuck. Click on your mic button there on the screen.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Tell them who you are.
I'm Chuck Martin. I'm the candidate that lives in Centerville, Alabama. Grew up in Montevallo, and my dad's from Jemison. You know, just an everyday person.
All right. And then next we have Jackson McNeely.
Jackson McNeely.
And Mimi Penhale. Unmute.
Hi, I'm Mimi Pinhale. It's nice to have you guys tonight. Thanks for having this.
And Donna Strong.
Hi, I'm Donna Strong. Good evening, everyone.
All right, that's our crew for tonight. So thank y'all all for being here and taking your time. The way this forum is going to work, well, let's just skip on past that, because the people that we have here on this forum just includes the host and myself, which are the candidates, myself, the moderator, and the tech guy, which is Josh Lambert. That's the only people that are actually working behind the scenes here. I'm going to be asking the questions. Josh will display the questions on the screen, and you should be able to see the question as we come up to each question, just like you're seeing the slide that I'm reading to you right now. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question. There's going to be 5 questions, as you know. Each candidate's going to get the same question, so we're going to answer that question 5 times. When it comes your turn, and it'll be your turn in alphabetical order, Russell will get the first question first, and then alphabetically we'll progress through. Excuse me. A timer, which looks like a red circle, that will be your countdown clock that'll tell you when you've used up your 60 seconds. And when your 60 seconds is up, I'll let you know if you've used up too much time. When you've used up your 60 seconds, I'll tell you that we're ready to move on to the next person. And when the next person's turn comes up, as soon as your name pops up, the timer will start. So here's an example. When the question comes up, such as who is buried in Grant's tomb, when candidate A's name pops up, the circle starts the timer running. There's the timer running over there on the left, on the right-hand side of the screen. And that timer is going to run for 1 minute. Can everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's the timer. It'll run out when the 60 seconds is up. There's no prize if you get the 60 seconds exactly right. And there's no penalty if you run over. We're not going to do anything to you, but we will tell you when your time's up, okay? So try to keep your answers brief. When I say brief, I mean try to stick to the 60 seconds, because we've got 5 questions. We got the way this is going to work. It'll take us about an hour to get through all the questions. And then after we've gone through the questions, each one of you will have 2 minutes to talk and say whatever you want to say about your candidacy, each one of you. And that's going to take us about an hour. And by that time, you will have worn everybody out who might be watching. And they'll be ready to go home. So everybody understand what we're doing here? Ready to
Yes,
start?
sir. Let's do it.
All right, so Josh, you ready to go? We'll start with the first question. And the first question, let's get it up there, Josh. So here's the question. Alabama voters, back up, Josh, here we go. Wait till I read the question, Josh. The Alabama voters defeated Amendment 1 in March of 2020, soundly. The amendment proposed switching to an appointed State Board of Education and permanently embedding Common Core standards for math and English into all Alabama school curricula. Since the adoption of Common Core, Alabama has fallen to last place nationally in test results. The debate on Common Core standards and the composition of the state school board is likely to continue into the future. So our question is, where do you stand on Common Core education standards? Now, Russell gets the first shot at this question. Russell, your name's about to pop up. You'll have to unmute your microphone. I see you've already done that. So when your name pops up, the timer starts. Russell? Josh, go ahead. Pop him up. There you go.
There we go. All right. Well, thank you for the question, and what a great place to begin, because education is something that is very much on everyone's minds in our states. I think that everyone can agree that Common Core for our state has been a disaster. I think from the very beginning, many wise people in the state of Alabama were saying that Common Core is not going to do anything but reduce our standards down to a lower level. And I think we're getting exactly the result of that. Further, Common Core tries to place everything into a box. That's not what we need. We have unique children in our state. And I'm saying this as a parent of a child who is dyslexic. That dyslexic child does not learn the same way that other children learn. Trying to place those same standards on a child like my son and many others with special needs, educational needs in our state, just isn't going to work. As a matter of fact, what it does is tremendous hurtful impact to him down the road. Kids like that get into a system in which they can't flourish. They don't do well in school, end up at the end of the day losing confidence in themselves, and hopefully, and what we don't want to see, especially with my child or others, is they end up with no confidence and ending up living a life where they feel like they can't succeed. And so this is what that system's done to us. We all need to work towards abolishing it and in encouraging creativity in the classroom for kids of all standards.
All right, Russell, thank you. Great answer. All right, next person to tackle that question is going to be Chuck Martin. Chuck, you ready?
I'm ready.
Unmute your, well, you already did. So
Already did.
Pop up, Chuck, there. You're on, Chuck.
Okay. I am not even a supporter slightly of Common Core. I find it to be very detrimental to the education of our children. I'm more in line with common sense education, where we teach our children the basics and advanced courses and know that when they finish the course, that they're proficient in whatever course they're taking. You know, for too long, we've had situations where our teachers have tried, like Russell said, to box in our students, to make them all the same. Well, it's not a cookie cutter situation. Our children need to be able to express themselves and to grow with the help of the teachers and our education system. And that's my feeling about it.
All right, Chuck, good. And you got it in a minute too. All right, the next person that's going to tackle that question is going to be Jackson. Ready, Jackson?
Yes, sir.
All right, Josh, you're on.
Well, Common Core actually started as a national standard for our education system. And we have to look at that. Why are we in Alabama? We already have a standard that we set forth. And as a teacher, we go through rigorous trials and errors in figuring this out. It needs to be common sense. It needs to be a quality standard, and the government does not need to oversee something that affects our children. We're looking at one of the other parts of the question was switching to an appointed state board of education. This is something that the parents need to decide. Common Core and many parents are looking at that specifically in math as we've gone back and parents have had to teach their children. It doesn't make sense. Common Core math goes from 5 steps to 20 steps. And it's not about making our kids college ready. It's about preparing them for life. And we need to go back to standards that fit us, not national standards.
Good answer. Thank you, Jackson. Next, Mimi Penhale. Wait for your name to pop up, Mimi.
Does your mic work and is it unmuted?
She's
Yes.
ready.
Okay, all right.
I agree with Jackson. So we're looking at Common Core was a federal education initiative that sold itself as something that was going to unify our education system across state lines. While that seems like a good idea, what it ultimately did is it handcuffed teachers to a specific way of teaching and limited their ability to focus on topics of regional importance. I believe that it is not right for the federal government to make mandates like this and create rigid curriculums that don't allow for state and local educators to have a say in the child's education here in Alabama. I believe educational decisions should be made on the local level, and I believe that those decisions should be between parents and the teachers here.
All right. And the next answer will come from Donna Strong.
Donna, can you, is your mic unmuted?
It's unmuted. I'm ready.
All right, let's do it.
Thank you. Well, going last is a little hard because everybody's already said some really good things, but Common Core, you know, the results speak for themselves. Our state has fallen nationally. And it's not totally the fault of Common Core. There's a lot of wasteful spending in education, and I hope to talk more about that later. But like every student is unique and different, every state is unique and different. And our federal government does have too much input into education. It should be a state decision. We have great, wonderful, highly educated people that have a great set of state standards for every course, every class. And, you know, they're fantastic standards and we need to go back to those. And I'm very proud of Alabama voters for defeating Amendment 1 back in March, because we do need choices. We do need a voice in everything that happens in education.
Very good. Very good job with number 1, question number 1. All right, Josh, let's look at question number 2. Alabama is one of the 3 states that signed on with Google and Apple for a new contact tracing app that, according to Governor Ivey, was designed to slow the spread of the coronavirus. This technology will create tracing apps using Bluetooth technology. When somebody tests positive for COVID-19, the system will send a notification to anyone who is tested or was recently near that person, advising them to contact their local healthcare authority to receive a coronavirus test. Critics speculate that this could lead to involuntary quarantine orders and possibly a lot of other things. The question for you is, what is your reaction to voluntary or involuntary participation in contact tracing apps, citizens' rights to privacy, and sunset provisions for such laws if we're going to be under those? So we'll start that question round with Chuck Martin, number 2. Chuck Martin.
Okay, I am not for tracing apps, but if you want to know the truth, if you walk in with a smartphone today, you're being traced and you're being followed, and there are ways to stop it, but it is a fact of life. Now, if we have to have tracing, which I'm not for, I think it should be sunsetted as soon as this crisis has passed. And I'm not sure about voluntary or involuntary quarantine. You know, if you're feel like you've been exposed, you can be tested. And if you're tested and you prove positive, everybody I know that's had been through that have quarantined themselves for at least 2 weeks, and then they test again. But you know, once they've been tested and been through it, why are they even having to worry about it? They should be immune to this. That's just how I see it.
All right, good answer, Chuck. Next up, Jackson.
Yes, sir. I do not believe in using any of this technology to track our citizens. Many of us found out through social media that it had been added to smartphones and Apple phones just a few weeks ago. There's a huge privacy issue with this that's going on right now. And it's not about that, it's about our civil liberties. And it's a really borderline Fourth Amendment issue of who is going to be tracing and how it's going to be tracking. At this point in time, we need to be making decisions for ourselves, and having Big Brother watch us and decide what is going on is not why the United States was founded. And we need to make wise decisions for ourselves, not with big government, nor with big industry. Thank you.
Good answer, Jackson. Next up, Mimi Penhale.
I think it's a blessing and curse that technology can tell us this kind of information, but I'm always concerned about the infringement on my rights. In a day and age where we're seeing hackers utilize and manipulate this kind of information, I'm hesitant to trust its collection. I think collecting people's data without their consent is a slippery slope, and I'm not for it.
Good answer.
Thank you. Donna Strong.
I definitely do not believe that we should be tracing anyone, any adult for any reason. It is a Big Brother issue. And, you know, one of my main beliefs is that everyone should be responsible for their own actions. And we need to educate people as much as we can, but we don't need to trace them around. We don't need to follow them. We don't need to track them. It is an infringement upon our rights and definitely shouldn't be done. If it were to be done against our will for some reason, then you mentioned something about a sunset law, and yes, that should be a provision that's definitely there, but I would be totally opposed to the whole idea.
All right. And Russell Bedsole. Joshua wasn't on the clock. Where is he? There it is.
All right, Mike, I think we're ready now. I think, is Russell the next candidate?
Yes.
All right,
I am.
Russell, and we'll go now.
Okay. Yeah, so this question really goes deeper than just COVID-19. We do talk about issues of how far do we go as government and tracing our citizens. But I think a key point in this question is all gets back to what we all think, I think we all believe, and at least I do, is about a person's right to choose. And the question did ask voluntary or involuntary. I think that that's important to note. Let everyone decide. I bet there's many of us on this call right now that some in the very beginning did not choose to participate in social media apps like Facebook because we didn't want our personal lives put and made themselves more available to such technology. So if your choice is to participate in something, that should be the choice of the person. But I will echo something. It is a dangerous, slippery slope when you ask government to begin getting involved to that level, because there's going to be inevitable abuse in that. But again, at the end of the day, if the individual chooses to participate, then that should be that person to choose.
Okay. We lost some of your audio quality on that answer, Russell, for some reason, or I did. Josh, did you lose some audio on him?
Yeah, it broke up about the last 15 seconds. I had a little bit of difficulty understanding the last part of that.
That was because I was given an answer that the government didn't like, so they silenced me on that one.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess you were being eavesdropped on. So would you like to give us the last couple of sentences that we'll give you some more time, because I don't think anybody heard you.
Yeah, I'll just wrap up with this. And I want to go to the key of the question. Voluntary or involuntary? What is your reaction to that? If it is voluntary and someone chooses, I don't believe government on any level, if they choose to participate, then it is the individual person's choice to do so. But if we give that information to the government on a higher level, that we have to be careful about how that information is used. So I say that with caution. However, should be the person's individual choice whether they participate or not.
All right. So I believe that was everybody on that question. And I believe we're ready to move on to question number 3 now, Josh. All right, here's a big question that everybody wants to hear your answer on, I think. So here's the question. Governor Ivey appointed a group to study gambling, and they have until December 31st, this was the last information I had. They had until December 31st to issue a report on the impact of expanded gambling in Alabama. And that would mean that we would not get a gambling proposal on the ballot for November, of course. But the real question in a nutshell is, where do you stand on gambling? Either gambling casinos, gambling franchises, and I know you know what that means, or a statewide lottery in Alabama. So the first person that gets to answer that question would be Jackson McNeely.
Wait a minute, Mike. I think for question 3 here, I think Chuck Martin is the first one on that list.
Chuck got the first one on question number 2. So Jackson should be coming up on question number 3.
Okay, I will skip to that part in the slide then just a moment.
We might have had it in the wrong order on the slide for some reason.
Okay, so I will start. All right, so Jackson, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, and go.
All right. I think it is up to our constituents, up to the people of Alabama. I think that what we've seen and the Native Americans and the gambling facilities that they have had, they've done a really great job. They put a lot of money back into the state. And I am personally for a lottery. Growing up in the state of Tennessee and looking at their model for an education-based lottery, it's spectacular. All of the adults right now can go to school for free for 2 years. That is something that would be amazing to help the people here in Alabama, to offer that to our students, not only for college education, but also for apprenticeship. I think handled properly, well handled, and written out specifically, we would find a benefit to our state. As far as gambling goes, sports gambling and things like that, again, it's going to be up to our constituents and the people in the state of Alabama.
All right. The next person will be Mimi Penhale.
I've been working with legislators for 9 years, and during my time, I've seen polls that suggest the people of the state of Alabama would like to see Alabama address a lottery. Over the years, I've answered a lot of phone calls from constituents who believe that we are sending a lot of money across state lines because we're not participating. I think it's trying to let the people have a voice in the vote. It's been 20 years since we've had a vote, so I think it's a time for them to have a chance to say whether they think this is right or not.
All right. And Donna Strong.
Hi. We let adults do a lot of things that aren't always good for them. And we should. People have the right to smoke and to drink, and half the country's even giving people the right to smoke dope. People should have the right to buy a lottery ticket or go visit a slot machine if they want to. And so I believe that this should be allowed in Alabama. I believe it is an adult right to do this. I know that the casinos have brought a lot of money into the state. I know that we've lost a lot of money to other states for casinos before our, Wind Creek casinos were put up. We've lost a lot of money for lottery tickets. I don't believe we should allow any franchises. I believe we have to be very, very careful on how this is governed, how it's the accountability system should be very closely monitored, but it would bring in a lot of money for Alabama. So I would be for this, yes.
Okay. And Russell Betzel?
Yeah, I think the thing we need to start out, though, we all know that we all believe that our constituents, the people of Alabama, need to have that right to choose. But there needs to be good representatives in government that are willing to form up the conversation, if you will, before it gets to the people. And what I mean by that is to look out for the best interest of the people of Alabama, to not allow those franchise businesses to come in and take over what should be controlled here in Alabama. So we've got to be thinking about which candidates or which representatives of our state are going to be the ones to craft this in a way, because I think we all know from watching the news media through the years is the biggest problem with any gambling bill has come with the infighting that occurs before it ever gets to the people. So we've got to have a group of level-headed people on all sides. These are people representing the casinos. These are the lawmakers that get involved and figure out what we're going to do with this. And let me end with this. If anyone in the state of Alabama thinks this is a fix to all of our problems and we need to have gambling so that we can fix our problems, I think we're mistaken. And what we're going to find, it will create more problems. Now, I'm all for giving adults the right if they want to buy a lottery ticket or enjoy some time in a casino, but I don't think this is a fix to our long-term problems in our state. And if we're going into it for that reason, it's the wrong reason.
Okay, and the final answer will come from Chuck Martin. Unmute, Chuck. Chuck, unmute.
All right,
Yeah.
now, I hate to tell you this, but gambling exists in Alabama today and has for many, many years. We've had dog tracks, horse tracks, Indian bingo casinos, and of course, the one that I dislike the most is illegal sports betting. And that's been going on in our state since, gosh, way before I ever came along. I'm not for casinos. I know what's happened in Mississippi. I've seen they've lost several of their casinos in the last few years because of a downturn in the economy. And I'm not sure that it's regulated like it should be. And I'm not sure that we could regulate it properly. I would be willing to let people vote on a lottery if the legislation was crafted properly and it was going to go to help us with education and other issues. But the reality is people leave every week and go to Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee and buy lotto tickets. And we're not getting anything from that. And it would be nice if we could find a way to put it to good use. That's how I see it.
All right, Chuck, that's everybody. So we will move on to question number 4. And the question here is ask for you to elaborate for a full minute on why you're seeking this office and give us a little bit about what your goals are, for the voters, not necessarily for yourself. What do you want to accomplish for your office? Who you'll be accountable to when you decide to vote on an issue. Whether or not your constituents will be able to have access to you, whether you'll continue to participate in forums like this one in the future, and how will you determine how effective you are in your office and the performance of the duties that you have in your office. And the most important part of this question is please disclose if you're sponsored by any PACs, who they are. And the first answer for that question will be Mimi. So we'll start with Mimi Pinham.
All right, so I have, I've been listening to the people of this district for quite some time, for almost a decade. And so I know that their concerns have to do with education. Their concerns have to do with infrastructure, with access to healthcare. And I think that those will be my focuses as a legislator. I know that I'm accountable to those people. I've been answering the phone for 9 years. I don't intend on stopping. So I'll continue to answer the phone. I'll continue to be accountable to those people, and I'll participate in forums. I'll show up at meetings. I will be there to answer their questions and to be accountable for the votes that I make. I think that you measure your effectiveness in office by the support that you receive throughout your time and the people that you stay in contact with. I am proudly endorsed by the Alabama Farmers Federation. As a daughter of a farmer, I find that to be one of the highest honors that I've had so far running for office. And I've received some support from several pro-business PACs, but I've been able to raise most of my money from over 75 friends and family members. So I'm endorsed by a lot of people that you don't know, but I find to be some of the most important endorsements I've received.
Thank you, Mimi. Donna Strong will be up next.
Hi. Most people know from my campaigning that I have been a classroom teacher for 31 years. And I've enjoyed every minute of that. What a lot of people don't realize is that the state of Alabama prohibits educators from serving in the House or the Senate. This is in our Alabama State Code, that an educator may not continue their job and serve in the House. And so to become a representative, I would have to leave my job. Both active and retired teachers would have to give up those positions to serve. I don't think this is very just. I want to see a lot of changes in education. I've seen a tremendous amount of wasteful spending. I know we can do a lot more. I know that we need more one-on-one time with students. We need smaller classes. We need more counselors. Our minority students suffer in schools. Our special ed students don't have the funding that they need, but we don't have a voice from educators in Montgomery. And so I'm willing to leave my job that I love and be that voice in Montgomery. It's something I feel very strongly about. I'm sure all the candidates want a better Alabama, but I think this is something that I bring to the table that's very different. I've not received any funding from any PAC. Like Mimi said, I have a lot of great supporters who have helped me in many ways, and I'm very grateful to them. And one of the things that I think would also be different about me from most candidates is that I would be a full-time legislator because I would have to give up my teaching career just to serve my state. I would be doing that full-time.
Thank you, Donna. Next will be Russell.
Thanks, Mike. I think for the last 8 years shows the people of this district what they're going to get in a representative. Somebody who works tirelessly to represent them, someone who has held many one-on-one meetings, someone who has been in open forums, and someone who has shared many one-on-one phone calls. So I think that my history of representing people is already there. I have already done that and done it really well and successfully in the state of Alabama. And by the way, that is on top of a full-time job and a career. And so what I think that shows is that I can hold a full-time job and career and be successful as a division commander running the one of the finest jails in our state and being able to do that successfully and reaching the level I have. And so if you want to know, though, what are my goals? And I kind of laughed the other day when I had a constituent ask this question. As a representative leader of the state of Alabama, my goal should be to be in tune with what the people want. They want law and order. They want someone that's going to fight for them. They want someone who's going to listen to them. And all of those things that we've been able to do successfully for the last 8 years. And I'm very proud of that. And like other candidates here, many supporters, friends and family have been tremendous during this time, but I've got some very proud endorsements. The Shelby County Fraternal Order of Police is a proud supporter. The Sheriff of Shelby County, John Samaniego, and then Alabama Association of Nurse Anesthetists, and then one that I'm really proud of, Conservation Alabama. This group is dedicated to securing lands in our state for the mental and physical health of our citizens, and just one that I'm very proud is a grassroots group that they've gotten behind us, and we're going to continue to work to help them secure those lands in our state for all of our citizens.
Thank you, Russell. And next up will be Chuck Martin.
Thank you, Mike. What are my goals? To preserve and protect the Constitution of the United States as best of my ability. To serve the people that live in District 49 in the state of Alabama. And to always do the right thing, even if it's not always agreeable to everyone I serve. Who will be accountable to will be the people that I represent. You can contact me anytime. My door will always be open. My phone will be available to you. I'm willing to serve on candidate forums at any time that you set one up or anyone else does. And as far as measuring your effectiveness in office, I think you're just going to have to look back and see if you followed the rules that you always set for yourself. And I believe that if you pray and follow the Lord's direction, it's easy not to make the wrong decision. I am sponsored by the Alabama Funeral Directors Association, Alabama Cemeterians, a lot of local business people and friends and family. I am so grateful for everybody that's volunteered and helped. It's been a great and a wonderful experience, y'all.
All right, thank you, Chuck. And now we're good. You finished? Yeah, okay. So now, Jackson, it's your turn.
Thank you. What are my goals? Well, my goals are based on my community and some of the problems that I'm seeing now. The quality of life in a lot of District 49 is not there, whether it's jobs, education, even simple things like being able to get internet so that you can educate your kids. We have a lot that needs to be worked on, and those are my goals, is really to improve the quality of life for the people that I live with in District 49. Will I be accessible? Absolutely. Bill's custom framing every week, all the time. But it's not just that. It's continuing to talk with people that come into the shop, people that I'm neighbors with, organizations that I'm involved with. I am very open, very honest, and will talk to anybody that I need to with their problems and their issues. My effectiveness in office is really going to be based on the feedback from the community. I want the community involvement in the decisions that are made. I want to talk to them one-on-one. I know this legislative season is going to have a really, really big impact because we were so quiet because of COVID. There's going to be a lot of things that are coming down the pipe. So I think that looking at effectiveness is going to be mirrored by those constituents that I'm around, those neighbors and those friends. I am not endorsed by any PACs. I did this to better the community. I had not planned on doing this. This is not a career goal of mine. And I really want to work with the people and have that feedback. So I am not endorsed except by my community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackson. Mimi, let's see, you're up. Mimi's up next. No, we already, was that the last one? I've lost track. Does everybody answer your question for? Yeah, we have. I thought so. Okay, Josh, we're ready to go on to the last question. And by the way, I'll let y'all run over time because we're doing good on time. And this one shouldn't take us long, so we'll be on a pretty good schedule here. Question number 5, this is our last question. Where will you stand on the subject of future tax increases, because we've had some, and the right of the people to vote on any proposed tax or tax increase? Please address local and statewide differences where applicable. I think I mentioned to some of you that in the past, sometimes if you don't go along with the proposals, sometimes you suffer some heat down there in Montgomery. So you know, you might want to comment on that because you're going to run into that. So we'd like to know where you stand on tax increases and whether or not you feel like people ought to get a chance to vote on them. And we'll start, let's see who is up next on the last question. Donna Strong, you're going to get to answer that one first.
All right. Thank you, Mike. I do think that people should have the right to vote on proposed taxes. You know, we're blessed to live in Alabama. We have some of the lowest taxes in the country. We have some of the lowest property taxes. Our recent gas tax, I know no one really enjoyed getting that, but it's probably something that was needed in our state at the time. You know, we do have to have new roadways. We do have to have new schools. We do have to have new fire trucks, new equipment for our law enforcement. We have to fund things that we need in our communities, but we don't need to turn around and increase taxes every other day. We need to hold people accountable in Montgomery for the taxes that they are taking in. We need extreme, close accountability for our money. We've got to cut wasteful spending. We've got to decrease the fluff. There's so much fluff in every level of our society. We want to make sure that people are taken care of, and the taxes that we have now should be doing that. Hopefully we won't have any taxes in the future. I'd be against bigger taxes and definitely against bigger government, and all for more accountability.
Thank you, Donna. Russell Bedsole, your turn is next.
Yeah, this question is something that as a member of City Council, we've had to look at many times, because working with your budgets, you see what is there and what's not there. And simply having responsible government really goes a long way. And I know that everyone would agree with that, but that's a lot easier said than done sometimes. If I just take a look at the budgets as we looked at them in the city of Alabaster, there wasn't a lot of fluff. But I can tell you that it was very difficult to make those decisions on where that funding should be. Now, I'm not anyone, and you can read my literature, not pro-tax, and I don't want to go in and tax the people to death. But I'm also not going to shut my responsibility to be a representative leader in this government. Now, we know there are some taxes that will have to go on a ballot before the people and let them decide, and I'm all for that. But I'm also going to tell you that as a representative leader in this form of government, that I'm going to stand up and I'm going to listen to the citizens. And if there's ever a proposed tax that is going to be voted on, i.e. just like the gas tax, the representative leaders, they had a tough time deciding between that. But I'm going to be somebody that's going to listen to the citizens of this district, and we're going to make a decision that's best. Because as I've been out knocking on doors, north part of Bibb County up on Hickorywood Road, Mr. Flurry just told me the other day, he said, Mr. Bedsole, he goes, can you get my road paved? And we all know that sometimes that there has to be some advances made and changes. And one of those perhaps was the gas tax to get our roads repaired and get them in the shape they need, because we can't continue to live on 1980s and 1990s standards in the 2000s. So I'm going to be a representative that's going to listen to the people, but we're going to have to make some tough calls sometimes and give that fluff. And I've been there in the government before, looked at budgets, and I have the experience to do that.
Thank you, Russell. Chuck Martin. Microphone. Chuck.
I got you.
All right.
All right. When it comes to taxes, I don't know of anybody I've ever talked to that enjoys, likes, or wants to pay any more taxes than what they're currently paying, if that much. I'm not in favor of putting a tax on the constituents of the state of Alabama without them being told why, how, and letting them vote for it. You know, I saw the school in Alabaster. I've told this before. And the people up there decided they wanted something really good. And they voted a tax on themselves. And if you ever get a chance, you need to go look at Thompson High School. It is a sight to behold. You see, I think the people know when there's something good that can come from taxes, that they'll get behind it and they'll work with you. Now, as far as local taxes, I think that should be decided by the city councils, the county commissions. If we can help, that's fine. But I still don't think you should ever put a tax on without explaining to people where it's going to, what it's for, and make sure all the waste has been done away with before you do it. And that's me.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Jackson McNeely.
Well, I think that, you know, I hear the other candidates and we really agree on this. The people of District 49 and the people of Alabama need a say on these taxes. I know a lot of us were surprised with the gas tax. And I look at where we are in the tax brackets and specifically in the Southeast, and you have to think Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, we're all right there. But then you compare with some of the other states, and some of them don't even have personal income taxes. So that's showing you where we are in a tax bracket. There's obviously some overspending. There's obviously some fluff. There's some things that need to be cut. But more than anything, when taxes come down the line and state taxes come down the line, these citizens have to have a say in this. If they want to put a tax on themselves like Alabaster to Bill Thompson, that's for their community. We cannot keep leveling taxes on the citizens without their say and their knowledge.
Thank you, Jackson. Mimi Penhale.
So I like to do my homework when it comes to legislation. I find that it's easy to bypass and not pay attention to the legislation because they're wordy, but if you don't, you're going to miss out on something big. I find that some of the best tutors that for legislation are actually the people themselves. Constituents pay attention. Constituents understand how legislation is going to impact them, especially in their different businesses and different communities. I think that if you don't listen to your constituents, and if you don't ask them these questions, and if you don't allow them to have a vote, then you're not doing your job as a legislator. Of course, I don't want any taxes. I don't want taxes raised. I have to pay them too. So I just realized that that's something that we're all going to have to deal with. And so I'm really passionate about keeping them as low as possible. I didn't vote on the gas tax, but I can tell you right now that I am committed to ensuring that that money, that every single dollar from that goes to fixing the roads and bridges in our state, and specifically in this district. I've been listening to people talk about these roads and these issues for 9 years, and I'm passionate about seeing those issues fixed and addressed now.
All right. I think that's everybody on question number 5. So now we have run through all of our questions. I know you're glad of that. No more questions. We're going to move to another phase of the forum. Josh, if you'll advance the slide. What we're going to do now is give each of you some time to talk about yourself. And this is the part that candidates love the most, is when you get to talk about yourself and nobody's asking you a question. You can just say whatever you want to say. Now, we're going to be just a little bit over 10 minutes doing this, and we're going to be a little bit past 8 o'clock. So your clock's going to be a 2-minute clock. Try to stick with it. We're going to, instead of going in alphabetical A through B this time, we're going to give Donna Strong a chance to go first, if you'd like to, Donna, and talk for 2 minutes about you and your own platform. So, Donna, would you like to start first?
Yes, thank Mike.
All right.
I am from Shelby County, Alabama. Lived in Alabama all my life except for going to college. You know, I think all the candidates want the best Alabama we can have. I've got 3 children. They're all products of our public education system. My husband is a veteran. He's a school teacher as well and a retired Navy chief. So military is very important to me. My dad was also in the Navy. So, you know, I grew up with conservative values. I strongly support our rights as conservatives. I believe that life begins at conception. I believe we have the right to bear arms. I believe that individuals have to be responsible for their actions. But as I said earlier, I'm also an educator for 31 years, and I know that all of our decisions about education, they come from Montgomery. when we start school, what curriculum package we're going to use, what testing we're going to have, how many students are going to be in classroom, how many teachers are going to be in a school, how many resource officers are we going to be allowed to have in school? Are we going to have nurses in school? Even some decisions about school lunch menus. And there are no voices for education in Montgomery. No voices on those committees in the House or the Senate that are actual educators, actual school employees. And so I think we've really got to change that. And I want to be that voice. I want to be that champion for our school system. We've got 700,000 children in Alabama schools. And I think the data shows that we're not doing right by them. We're not doing the best that we can. We're not giving them as much guidance and one-on-one attention and counseling as we could be giving them. We want to make our school systems look good, and that takes a lot of money that's not going to the students where it's needed. I'm also a big proponent on preserving the beauty of our state, our farmlands, and my time is up. So I appreciate your vote and your support. Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you, John. And we're going backwards order here, so pay no attention to the slide. We're going to let Mimi Penhale go next, and I'm running my own clock. So Mimi, you're up.
Thank you so much tonight for hosting this forum. I know all my other candidates have struggled with campaigning during the day and age of COVID, so we appreciate you guys doing that tonight. Many of you who are watching and all the other candidates, we kind of know each other's spiel at this point. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. For the past 9 years, I've been working with the Shelby County Legislative Delegation. I am the person who works in their office that answers constituent phone calls, who works with state and local governments on issues, and who works with schools. I've been in every single school in this district. I'm very familiar with this district. I dare to say I'm the only candidate who knows and understands this district in the capacity that I've worked. And so I am very passionate about seeing things fixed. I'm passionate about issues that I've heard repetitively year after year. I'm passionate about continuing the growth that we've seen in these communities and in these areas. And I want to see somebody in the Statehouse represent them and listen to them. And I think because of where I've come from and what I've done, I can be that. I believe that education has some things to address, and I really believe that I understand that, and that I know that we can do better. I believe that rural healthcare really struggles in our state. And when somebody's having to go over an hour just to receive their general care, I think that's unacceptable. I also understand that infrastructure in these communities has been a huge issue. And so I want to hold the state accountable for the tax that they passed and ensure that the money goes back to where it's supposed to go. And it doesn't go to bigger areas that have more people, but goes to the areas that we're asking to travel those roads in order to get to work, to school, and to get back home. I realize as a legislator that it's our job to represent our people, but you're also one vote for the entire state. And so I want to work hard to earn the trust of the people of my district and continue to work with them in order to make this a better place to work and live.
Thank you, Mimi. Jackson McNeely, you will be next.
Thank you. My name is Jackson McNeely. I am just an average citizen. I am not a politician. I am the daughter and granddaughter of Air Force veterans. I believe wholeheartedly in our Constitution, less government, lower taxes, and I'm a patriot. And I believe that we are absolutely blessed to live in one nation under God. My husband and I have lived in District 49 our entire married lives of 20 years. We've raised 4 children, and each of our kids has actually had a different educational experience. One graduated from a public high school, one got a GED, one graduated from a small Christian school, and our last one is actually being homeschooled. So I have a lot of different feels of what's going on in the community. I was a teacher for 12 years at Kingwood Christian School, and I have that education side. Prior to that, my husband and I actually ran an internet business working with transportation and truck drivers, helping them recruit and find jobs. prior to that, I actually worked in economic development, and it's still one of my passions, helping other communities bring in jobs and industries. With all of this, it's one of the reasons it's kind of combined to help District 49 and the district that I believe in, and I work and I live every single day. So I appreciate you guys having a forum, since we haven't been able to have one in public, and give our constituents this time to get to know us a little bit better. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Jackson. We appreciate your being here. Chuck Martin, you're going to be up next, buddy.
Okay, well, I'm ready, Mike. And thank you for letting me be here tonight. I appreciate this opportunity. I grew up in Montevallo. I went to school in Montevallo, and my wife and I got married in Wilton Baptist Church many years ago. My dad was a product of Jemison High School and owned Martin Lumber Company that was right around Providence, Alabama, if you know where that is. After Dad died, my mom married a man called Manuel McCartney. Manuel was an employee for the city of Alabaster for a long time. And I got them together when I was working at Solura Textiles. And most of you know that as Buck Creek now. As time progressed, I became enamored with the lady I married, my wife, Debbie. She was a Rocco. And as time went on, we were able to, her family was able to purchase the funeral home in Centerville, Alabama. So for next week, I'll have been here 42 years. Now, in case you don't realize what I do in a small town, we're on call, and I was on call and have been on call to be, when I'm needed, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and just about 365 days a year. Now, I've got a little help, and a lot of times they fill in the slack for me, but I'm here 90% of the time. So I've made a life serving people. Prior to that, I was an EMT too. In fact, one of the first EMTs in Shelby County many years ago, when the funeral homes used to run the ambulance business. So I was one of the EMTs that worked for Rocco's Ambulance back in the days when we used to go to football games and cover all kind of situations in Shelby County. Now, that doesn't tell you a lot about me except where I'm from, because I've lived here my entire life. I'd like to serve the people that live in this district. I know people in all ends of the district, top, bottom, east, west, it doesn't matter. I think the ones that know me, if you'll ask, they'll tell you I'm honest, I'm straight. I'm not going to tell you something that's not true. I'll always be there. I'll have your back. They've told me they're going to have my back. So I'm kind of counting on that. So if you get a chance, please go vote August the 4th. And if you hadn't done your census, folks, please, please get your people to fill out the census. We're going to lose a lot if we don't get this thing up to speed. So that's all I got to say, Mike. Thank you.
All right, Chuck, thank you. And bat and cleanup, Russell Bedsoe.
I never was much of a cleanup hitter back in the day, more of a leadoff kind of guy, but we'll do just fine right here cleaning things up. So thank you, Mike, for hosting this event, and to my fellow candidates, sincerely thank you for giving yourself, putting yourself out there for all of this district to see, to critique, and to judge many times. And it's very brave of each of you to do it, and thank you for that. So I'm just a kid from Montgomery, Alabama, who actually grew up dreaming one day of becoming a police officer. And I'm living my dream. Never once did I ever consider myself a future in politics, nor do I consider that now. What I am doing is a service extension of service. And that's where my desire and love for law enforcement came from, is the ability to serve my fellow citizen. And that's when I began serving on the city council. That's what it was all about. A history of 8 years of serving the citizens of Alabaster. And so, you know, as I look straight into the camera here, I just want everyone to know this. I stand for those traditional conservative values that I think we all have. Second Amendment, and I'm certainly pro-life. And beyond just pro-life, life begins at conception, but I also think the sanctity of life is not there at all levels, and we are too quick to turn to violence. And so what I think we need right now is a candidate that's going to be willing to be strong, to stand up for the citizens of this district. one that will be willing to make the tough call. In 8 years, I've made many tough votes in the city level, and this is an extension of that. One that the constituents know that they'll be able to reach out to. They'll have a lot of compassion for their needs and the ability to help them. And sometimes the bravery to be able to tell them there's really nothing we can do for you now, but we're going to work to find a solution. And I think one of the greatest assets, those on the city government level, for any of my friends watching that might be serving on a city council, the benefit of having someone to understand that sometimes decisions made in Montgomery adversely affect our cities back home. Having a legislator in Montgomery that's not going to try to represent Montgomery back to the district, but rather represent our district to Montgomery. And what that means sometimes is not interfering with a city's ability to thrive, not cutting off the revenue streams, those things that are so important to give back to our citizens. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to work tirelessly like I always have for the citizens of Alabaster. I'm going to do it for District 49 and continue to serve you. So on August 4th, if you go to the polls, I would be honored if you would consider me for your vote. Thank you.
All right, Russell. That is everybody. I want to thank all of you for your participation, and you all did a great job. As I said earlier, we have recorded this. It will be available for replay. We will post it on the Bibb Voice website as well as on our Facebook page. The bibbvoice.com is the address for our website. @Bibb Voice is our Facebook address. It'll take us a little while to edit the video so you don't have all of the unnecessary stuff. Next slide, Josh. Thank you to all of the candidates and to the Education Committee, as well as to the GOP sponsors who help us put this forum together, the Republican Women of Shelby County, the Bibb County Republican Party, and the Shelby County and the Chilton County Republican Party for your support. Thanks to the Bibb Voice publisher, David Daniel. Thank you to the Education Committee. For those of you who are watching, be sure to vote on August the 4th. That's that's next week, isn't it? I believe it is. It's a very short time before the special election for this important seat. If any of you are watching tonight are contemplating public forums like this and need help putting them on, please contact us at the Bibb Voice and at Centerville Tech LLC if we can help you in any way. Thank you for turning in or tuning in. Hope the best to you. Stay safe and good night. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, folks.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mike. Thanks, everybody.
Well done.
that's watching.
Well
Thank
done.
y'all for being here.
Glad to be here.
Enjoyed it.
I'm going to turn this off now.
Turn mine.
Good job, good practice.